In this video, I'm going to talk about our first essay, which is a picture book analysis essay, and is riding on the heels of the lesson from a picture book PowerPoint that we had, right? This essay will invite us to explore this deeper takeaway message of children's picture book because picture books, a lot of times, when we read them, the references and the messages might have gone over our head, but let's see this as an opportunity to revisit a picture book now that we're adults, now that we're smarter and can grasp more things. We're going to consider both text and illustrations to draw out a what's the larger takeaway message of a picture book. You're going to choose a picture book. And you can go to your public library or go to our Citrus Library. We have picture books there, and you can check one out. Choose one for this essay. And what I recommend as you're going to read it, I want you to take notes about things that you notice, the first things that you notice, such as um, what's it about? What's happening in it? How does it end? How is the conflict resolved? Who are the characters? One thing to consider is that in picture books, just like with literature, there's a celebration of an idea and an ideal, and can also be like a maligning or vilification of one. Like when we think about superheroes, like Superman often, he stands for justice and peace and order. And villains, they often stand for violence and impulsivity. And those are ideas that are maligned in superhero lore. Similarly, when we look at a picture book, we consider that characters represent ideas, ideals, values, and typically we see the protagonist as embodying the value that is being celebrated in the picture book. So that's something that we can consider. And also, simultaneously, the antagonist embodies the ideas, values that are maligned, right? So, we're going to consider what's the overall takeaway message of your picture book and how we see it work through the text and illustrations, harkening back to the lesson that we saw on how art style works, even things like texture, right? I know that picture books often use a sponge with paint, and that creates a dream-like, softer type of effect and mood. And then once you draw out that, like, what's the larger takeaway message? How does that message connect to your life, and why does that message matter? So, like I said, my recommendation is to take notes as you're looking at the book, as you're reading it. Look at the illustrations, the art form. Who are the characters? What are the ideas that are being celebrated by way of the characters? Um, and like they'll see like how does it end? What are we left with in terms of the message, right? So here's some guiding questions too. And remember that art style is intentional, as are things like literary devices. So how does rhyme scheme come into it? When something rhymes and is continually repeated, it's an important point that the writer wants to bring home. Like I can think of Dr. Seuss comes to the top of my mind. That's the main thing is you're looking at the book. What's the takeaway message? How does the book reflect that? So whether through its art form, whether who the characters are and what they represent, or like how the story ends, which is the resolution. Obviously, you want to connect that message to real life. How does that message connect to real life? And why is it important too? The minimum of 2 pages, will be the final draft. We're going to follow a series of steps. First one will be our outline, which I'll show you that one in a moment. And yeah, so the essay itself will be worth 100. After our outline, next week, we're going to have our workshop for it. So I'm going to explain that next time. But right now, just focus on the outline. So, is this essay? Now, I want to briefly take a look at the outline. Please pay attention to here our particular dates for you. I'm going to go over our outline worksheet for our picture book and analysis essay. So, at the top, you're going to write your picture book title. who is the author and who is the illustrator. The first part of the worksheet is geared towards helping you move those cogs in your mind to start brainstorming. And we're going to write, okay, what's the takeaway message of your picture book? How does it reflect this message? So when we say how, we consider things like how the art style and design is working in conjunction with the actual text itself. Another one could be maybe literary devices. Are they helping to bring home that larger message? Or just like I mentioned in the explanation of the prompt, what ideas the protagonist might be representing or the antagonist, right? Which is usually the good guy or the bad guy. Um, so how does the story end too? So what about the colors, the color palette? So how does it reflect this larger message? Like what happens in the story, all right? So this one is about the characters. So who are the key characters? What do their actions reflect the larger takeaway message in the story? For this one is specifically on design and art style, so I would review the PowerPoint on picture books where we look at Nodelman and Molly Bang, our two scholars that help us with our analysis of the illustration. So what specific design choices are evident in the illustration? Or we consider how shapes, color, and composition influence the story, the message. Basically, how it works in conjunction, right, with what's happening in the story and its message. What about how do you connect to the story, to the message in your own life? What's a personal connection? What about some real life examples, right, that resonate with this book's message? So here's a special task, of course. So it's the takeaway message of the book, and how do we see it really develop throughout, right? Text and illustrations or together in real life connections. So you're gonna answer that here. One way I would do it is, let's say the book that you choose is about the importance of never giving up, you know. So maybe you might introduce the topic. You might say something like, the only way to achieve one's dreams is by being persistent and never giving up. We see this, we see this message showcased in, and then insert book title by author. And then you can say something like, this is an important message because remaining consistent is the only way to achieve our goals. So see, something like that, like introduce the topic of the takeaway message, say that your book reflects it, and you can say how it reflects it, and how that message connects to your life and why it's important, right? So, which is what we have here for our intro, like how you introduce the topic, and then your thesis, right? So the rest of it is the body paragraphs. Remember, everything in the body paragraph should speak towards the larger project of your essay, which is your thesis, right? So here's some examples. Let's pretend the first body paragraph was about, the overview of the takeaway message of the book. What's your topic sentence? Supporting evidence is what will you use from the book itself to help support your topic sentence. Analysis is putting it together. So how will you use it? How will you use what you found in the book with the actual topic sentence? How you do that? So these are just some ideas for maybe some potential topic sentences for your body paragraphs. But remember, we have an embedded tutor, so you can work with our embedded tutor, and it's always helpful. Yeah, so here's another idea, like if it was about real life connections, this one. So once again, what's your body paragraph about? What will you use from the book to help you with that, like as far as evidence goes, and how you will put them together. And with the conclusion, once again, you can restate, this larger project, and then also why this message is important, what you draw out from it. So that is our outline worksheet. And I hope it's helpful with the crafting of your with the whole process of writing your paper. I recommend, once again, that you take notes while you're reading your book about the things that you notice, and so far as like the actual text itself and the art and design. So I hope that helps.